We've got you covered all season long. Welcome to the BCSN Nation podcast, powered by Buffalo Wild Wings.
All right, here it is, Season 3, Episode 8 of the BCSN Nation podcast, brought to you by none other than Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go, sports bar! Brandon Carnes here with Justin Feldkamp and, of course, Coach Mike Robb. Gentlemen, 7 weeks in the book. We're on to Week 8. I want to know who your takeaway, your top player of Week 7 was. We'll get into who our Family House Player of the Week pick was, but I want to know your Player of the Week because you matter so much to me.
Thank you so much.
Hey,
I'm going to go Mommy's Carson Greats.
Yes.
The story behind Mommy, I know Carnes likes to back the Panthers.
Ride or die, baby.
And they've been superb this season, especially from where they were 18 months ago till now. Hats off to Evan Karchner and the boys there at Kazmaier Stadium. But Carson Greats, he's a playmaker. I love those guys who find ways to get open, who are fast, elusive, play with emotion, play with passion, and they have fun. He gets to the end zone. You don't need to overly celebrate and taunt and all that other stuff to the opponents, but hey, celebrate with your teammates, celebrate with your stands and your fans, and they do that. And Mommy beat Genoa soundly, 33-13. They're 5-2, a 5 seed in Region 3 right now in their Division 3. So Carson Greats, my man.
Yeah, my favorite celebration from Friday was for sure them. They got the line dance action going on the end zone. I think I know where we're going. We're heading south for Mike Robb's pick. I'm willing to bet.
Yeah, my pick is the home of the 𝗡𝗶𝗵𝗵 burgers. The 𝗡𝗶𝗵, the fighting 𝗡𝗶𝗵 burgers. Going down to Lima Senior, Janias Hall. This guy is special. Yeah. Last year they lost 3 games, and I don't think anybody paid too much attention to them. He had 3,700 yards last year in 12 games. In 7 games right now, he has 3,100 yards. Oof. He's dominating, undefeated, best quarterback in the area. Needs to be talked about for Mr. Football, just for what they're doing. Obviously, competition is who you play against. Put them in the NLL, and I guarantee you they still be making noise.
Janias Hall of Fame, Mike Robb's pick. I'm going Trey Rubenstein. All right, the dude's an X factor. Pick 6, punt return for a touchdown, fumble recovery for a touchdown, and a touchdown catch against Bowser. You need a touchdown. Find Trey Rubenstein because he finds the end zone. Coming up, we'll get our Family House Player of the Week picks, not just ours. We'll get some overreactions from Week 7, and, of course, our Game of the Week preview. And, of course, if you want brand new episodes of the podcast, we're right here every single Wednesday at 4 p.m. on BCSN or anywhere you listen to your podcast, or head over to bcsnnation.com/podcast, and we'll be right there. And also at BCSN Sports on all of your social media platforms. Hit the follow button to make sure you are caught up with whatever we're doing. And, gentlemen, we're getting into it. Am I overreacting, talking me off a cliff, talking me off a ledge, or am I right on track with what we're talking about? We're starting first with last week's Game of the Week, Whitmer, Perrysburg. The Panthers have officially found their identity. Is that an overreaction or just 1 week
No,
they found it?
No, I don't think it's an overreaction, but it's a matter of, okay, do they hold on and grasp that identity going forward? Not just, hey, we played poorly against Anthony Wayne, so we bounced back against against Perrysburg. Are you going to take that identity to Week 8 and 9 and 10 and then an expected playoff run, especially if they land in the top 4 seeds? They could get 2 home playoff games. You got to win those games, no matter who you're playing, a Northwest Ohio opponent or a Northeast Ohio opponent. But Napoleon Jemison returned on defense for them in a big way. 9 tackles for Whitmer's defense against Perrysburg. And he's a difference maker. Yeah. And whether you like or dislike the choice to bring him back to the team, that's the decision that the coaching staff made. And Napoleon Jemison can be a difference maker going forward. But keep in mind that Perrysburg's defense had allowed a total of 28 points through 6 weeks. Yeah. They gave up 27 in one game to Whitmer, arguably the best team that Perrysburg has faced this season, and maybe not even arguably, just straight up the best team. But they had 198 rushing yards against Perrysburg back to Whitmer's offense. So, yeah, I think identity-wise on offense and defense, Whitmer knows what they have to do. If they can replicate that, they were up 20-0 entering the fourth quarter. So if they can replicate that going forward, they are going to be a tough team to beat.
Yeah, 100%. You've talked all season about Whitmer's problem being that center of the defense, shoring that up, stopping the run. They did a pretty good job against that and a very physical Perrysburg team.
Yeah, they came out ready to play football, and I think that's the difference. I think they heard all the chirping, all the words, all the talks about how they played last week versus 2 weeks ago versus Anthony Wayne.
Yeah.
And they heard it from me too, because I'm very vocal.
And Mike Rob's going to keep it real.
And one thing that, that I appreciated from them is that they came out with this effort that I hadn't seen from them all season long.
Flying to the ball.
They flew around. Napoleon Jemison, he was absolutely an X factor. Wasn't expecting to see him on the field. And with him out there, it definitely is a difference maker. This team is only getting better. Their next test in the regular season, which I truly believe is a test, is going to be Findlay. And so that's going to be a next one where we're going to see how they handle some speed on the outside.
Hey, Mike Rob, just transitioning me perfectly into our next one because we're going to Findlay. Landon Eckelberry is the next D1 prospect that's coming out of Findlay. Talk me off. Am I right? This kid, 96 of 134, 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns. He's only played 5 games. He's a freshman.
Yeah, he's already got an offer from Toledo, this weekend.
See, D1, called it.
Picked up his first offer. And one thing that you like about him is a few weeks back, watching him versus Clay, putting up 500 yards. That was a red alarm. That's when it started ringing like, well, wait a second. 500 yards as a freshman, 2028.
You discounted those yards, though. You said it came late in a game they needed points.
They were.
And then he's proven it since then, though, right?
But you know what? It's still the fact that you put it up to eye pop.
Sure.
It's eye popping off the charts, and then you got to watch the film. And that's what I did. I went back and watched him a little bit.
Okay.
And said, Findlay's a quarterback factory. They still got 2 other freshman quarterbacks that are good enough to start varsity for them in a couple years. So it's going to be a fun ride for them, but I think they're going to give Whitmer some trouble because he's just continually get confident. So Eckelberry, he's the next guy.
Yeah, there's no replacement, obviously, for Ryan Montgomery, but when you have a freshman step in and play in a very successful way, the hopes get higher. The season feels rejuvenated a little bit.
100%. And I just look at the potential development over the course of 4 years. We saw how Ryan Montgomery got better and better and better. And he kind of started roughly at the same time during his freshman year as Landon Eckelberry is. And when you go to their practice or watch the game film, he doesn't look like a freshman. No. He's one of those kids who developed and matured early, just bigger, thicker, bulkier, hair on the legs, hair in the armpits, all that type of stuff that you don't necessarily see from everybody initially as a 14, 15-year-old. So he has that going for him. He has that development and the body maturity and the physical attributes. But then he's been able, keep in mind, like despite all that maturity, you're still in the mental aspect of a 14, 15-year-old kid. You're playing against, in some cases, full-grown men who are 18 years old and who are linebackers who are ready to rip your helmet off and just crush you. And he's had the poise and the control there. Coach Stephen Adams is got to be loving this. You got to take the silver lining. Your star quarterback who's going to Georgia goes down, and it can be rough sledding going forward. But it's a nice little cushion spot to land with Landon Eckelberry here as a freshman to get all these different reps. And you mentioned the other freshman. I think Eckelberry, as long as he
separated himself.
Yeah, and I think as long as he maintains what he's capable of doing, they'll, one, have them as potential backups, but utilize them in other athletic positions on the football field so they could pay dividends for the Trojans going forward.
Yeah, you talk about guys screaming downfield, looking to take off helmets. Our player of the week from Family House is certainly one of those. 𝗦𝗽cije_𝗶𝗴𝗵𝘁𝗹𝘆. Let's see who it is. All right, we already talked about it. This entire defense for the Whitmer Panthers was screaming around the field. One of them, certainly to be included, was Tylin Davis. And I'll take my druthers here. Shout out Tylin. I spelled his name wrong in the Player of the Week poll. I issued my apology. I have to ask him if a W takes away the typo. I think he agrees. He's got his medal. Player of the Week, Tylin Davis, brought to you by Family House. You saw it on the graphic there. 5 stops on 4th down for that Whitmer defense. Goal line stands. They were all about the physical defense that we had questioned with Anthony Wayne, the game against Central. Those were issues they had. Stepped up Tylin Davis, a huge part of doing that. Family House will make it together, our Player of the Week, and we'll make it together right back after 30 seconds from Buffalo Wild Wings.
Buffalo Wild Wings, buy one, get one free. Boneless Thursdays saved me so much cash. I can finally do everything I've ever wanted in life, like skydiving. You ready? No, this was a mistake, a huge mistake. I want to go back. I want to go back. Go, go, go! Ah! Yeah, I'll probably just use the money I saved to get more buy one, get one free boneless wings at B-Dubs. No brainer. Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go sports bar.
At participating locations, not valid with other offers or discounts. See website or app for details.
Okay, I've officially issued my apology to Tylin Davis. I will not officially issue any apologies for taking us to City League football. We've got Week 8, Scott at Rogers. You see it on the screen. It's the Rashawn Wilson Bowl. He takes on his former team with his new Rogers team. Expectations for this matchup, some emotions for both sides in this one?
Oh, 100%. I think that what he did when he was at Scott was very impressive. He led them to a City League title in 1 year and got that program rejuvenated, had numbers go up as far as roster size, had some key playmakers. They were a fun team to watch. He made the decision, time to go elsewhere, or the administration there made the decision, time to go elsewhere, and he sees the opportunity at Rogers. So it's a battle of two first-year head coaches at their respective schools, and Richard Davis at Scott, and then Rashawn Wilson at Rogers. Both of these teams 2-5. Looking at the playoff ratings, it looks like 2 of the 7 City League teams are going to make the playoffs, being Lima Senior and Start.
Yeah.
But there's still plenty to play for, I think, with both of these teams and the 5 other schools in the City League, in the sense that build and build and build and build and get better and better, because Scott, prior to Rashawn Wilson there, was down here, and the previous coach, Mark Weaver, built it up a little bit, and I think Rashawn Wilson took it to the next level. But guys like Levante Purley, Dalen Bone, and Roshan Russell for Scott have been difference makers and have gotten points on the boards for the Bulldogs. On the other side, Rogers, 𝗦𝗫ce 𝗏𝘁𝘀, 𝗦𝗫ce 𝗏𝘀𝘀, and Sean Cannon have both, or all 3 of those guys have done really good things for the Rams. And I think that Rashawn Wilson just needs to continue to build that and get more guys like that who can contribute and maybe get a little bit more beef up on the offensive line that could help pay off down the line.
Yeah, and Scott showed a lot of resilience last week, down 12-0 to Woodward. They answered with 36 straight. Dalen Bone, a 56-yard pick six that helped swing that momentum. And I know you're a big fan of 𝗦𝗫ce 𝗏𝘀𝘀. You talked about him being an under-recruited guy, because that speed is a difference maker.
𝗦𝗫ce 𝗏𝘀𝘀 is a Division I football player.
Fast.
You know, he can play at the next level. He has the tools. He reminds me a lot of Barnett and the way his skill set is, but he's a hooper. You know, so a lot of these hoopers, they kind of skip football practices. They want to go to the shoot around and to the gyms. He's definitely a highly touted basketball player too. But on the football field, I think he has more upside. And as far as this game, you know, I think Rashawn Wilson, he has a little bit more going for him over at Rogers, especially having a 𝗦𝗫ce at quarterback.
Yeah.
And a lot of athletes on the outside. You mentioned Cannon as well. And for Scott, they're trying to figure some things out, you know, to go down 12-0 to Woodward. Woodward was on their way. They're on their way to break that winning streak. I mean, that losing streak to get on the on the high end, but they had too many turnovers offensively and 2 pick six. I mean, 1 pick six, 1 fumble, I think, turned to a touchdown, and that really just kind of hurt them there. For Scott, they got a lot of talent. They're young. I like Sims and the rest of those guys. Purley, excellent football player. Yeah. But if they stay true to the run game, I think that's where they have some success, especially using Rolandis, their former offensive tackle, at quarterback.
Yeah, we talked about that before we started rolling, where you don't see a lot of that happen, but they're making it work. They're finding, kind of like we talked about with Whitmer early in the season, both of these teams starting to find their identity a little bit, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. So a lot of excitement. That'll be at 6 p.m. this Friday on the BCSN Plus app. For a little bit of stats to lead out of this, Scott scoring 25 points per game in City League play. Rogers, in their losses, giving up 27 points per game. So those two align in a good way for Rashawn Wilson and Rogers, potentially to keep things rolling. We'll see how that one plays out this Friday on the BCSN Plus app. But now it is time for our clip of the week, brought to you by Renewal by Anderson. Defense wins championships, and it certainly wins games when you get back-to-back plays with a scoop and score. Curtis Strode Jr. takes this first one, a obvious miscommunication. The very next drive for the Titans, we got it happening again. Michael Bistetta go into the house himself for 50 yards. Not often you get one scoop and score in a game, but back-to-back drives for the Irish go into the house on the defensive side.
You know, I got to talk to it. You know, obviously I nominated Curtis for Player of the Week, and the Player of the Game was Michael, and Michael saw me at the UT game on Saturday. He said, "Hey, man, I just don't understand. How did I not get the nod? You know, I was Player of the Game. I had a scoop and score. I was like, but he was a lineman that got the scoop, and he was like, okay, yeah, you're right. He said,
Coach, I had 50 yards. He only had to go 14.
You know, and so he said that, but you know what? It's the defense, and you got to give credit where credit's due. Ryan Brown, he is the next greatest head coach in this area, period, point blank. Dude is smart. He understands defense. You talk about defense. That guy understands defense, too. Vince Karras, you know, like they're in the end zone, and his son plays for Central Catholic, too. Central Catholic's going to be good for the next 10 years. and having guys like Ryan Brown that coach and get these guys prepared week in, week out, I think that is the biggest difference.
Yeah, and you got to take advantage of the miscommunications on the first one, obviously. Quarterback pulls when maybe he thought he was going to keep it, vice versa, whatever it's going to be. Ball ends up on the turf. Ball ends up in the end zone. The second one, a big old hit leads to that ball, ended up in Michael's hands, and he's going 50 yards to the house. Defense wins championships. Pretty good way to do that, huh?
Yeah, you swallow the offensive players there.
Take them out of the play.
Is just impressive, and to do it right in front of the DC for UT, that's terrific.
Hey, I'm here, by the way.
Yeah, the miscommunication, so that had to occur in the huddle, if that one play right there, in the sense that we didn't know if it was a run-pass option, and was it a call for the run or a call for the quarterback to keep the ball.
Sure.
So you got to get it right when you break the huddle. And if you don't necessarily know what you're supposed to do.
He ain't want that ball, I tell you. He ain't want that. He ain't want that.
So,
based on the reaction afterwards, was like, that's not the person I'm diving in front of to pick up the ball. That was a business decision, as Antonio Pearson and Vegas would tell you.
Yeah, but what I like about this play is sometimes when you're a spectator or watching or you're a coach, there's times when you need to just get on the ball to secure possession for your team. And then there's times when, the ball came up to me, or I have enough space on the field where a defender opponent is not near me, so I can take a little bit of time to scoop the ball
green
up.
Grass.
So in both of these examples, in many cases, in both of these actually, it looks like the ball just came right up to them with plenty of room.
Yeah.
And they just had to go, 10 yards or whatever.
And look at the scores, 42 points. I mean, I'm definitely scooping and scoring. We don't care for the ball. I'm not falling on that. I'm bending my knees and picking it up, and both of these guys did an excellent job of that.
And what I like about this is these are the guys that you don't necessarily see in the highlights time after time, Friday night after Friday night. And
their time to shine.
Their time to shine, and you can't really knock them because that might be the only opportunity through
I'm picking that
Central's
ball
case, maybe 16 games
that
they have the chance to get on the highlights and get on the BCSN Nation podcast. So, boom.
You want more highlights? Head over to our TikTok at BCSN Sports. Hit that follow button. Get plenty of highlights all throughout the week, and especially when the big ones happen on Friday night. And a big one coming this Friday night, of course, our student section of the week brought to you by Unison Health. Give me the graphic because we're going to Johnny Land. The St. John's Titans, our student section of the week, a very tough test against Detroit Catholic Central for Friday for them. They're going to need the crowd to come, be pumped up. We're bringing the belt. Get your best theme, whatever it's going to be, a whiteout, a blackout, whatever it's going to be. Get your theme. Get everybody in the stands because the belt is coming this Friday when you take on Detroit Catholic Central. And now it is time to move on to another matchup this Friday. Perrysburg at Findlay, a big matchup on Friday, a bounce back for both of these teams to try and get right and get the season moving in the right direction. We've talked about both of them earlier in the show, but for Perrysburg, refining your identity. Can that defense be back to what it was earlier in the season? And for Landon Eckelberry and for Findlay, can you see what Whitmer did last week and carry that into your game plan?
Yeah, so Whitmer's defense was pretty locked down through the first three quarters against Perrysburg, but Perrysburg's defense gave up two big plays that had large impact on the game, those two wide receiver end arounds. So I think Mike Ward, defensive coordinator for Perrysburg, will figure out a way to fix that. But as far as the personnel, I think you can connect a lot of Whitmer's explosive players to Findlay's explosive players. Jacob Ragland
is a difference maker.
Terrific. So Perrysburg will have their hands full. Perrysburg has won 4 out of the last 5 against Findlay, but Findlay won last year. If you remember, it was a superb game, 42-35, the final score. That game was at Perrysburg. This time it is at Findlay. These two teams played twice, once in the regular season and one in the postseason in 2022. So these teams know each other well because up until last year, they were in 2 different leagues, the track and the NLL. But for Perrysburg, I think they got to rely on Dominic Woods a little bit more. I know I've called his name on the highlight shows this season, but I think maybe give him a little more touches. And then you got to avoid the turnovers. They had 2 crucial turnovers, and then you got to capitalize in the red zone. When you are not converting, and Coach Dirk Connor took some ownership of that for Perrysburg, said, hey, we got to call plays. I got to call plays when we can convert, that we can convert and get into the end zone, or at least get first downs. But for Findlay, I think win equals increased chances at a home playoff game, and then they got to put 4 quarters together. They've played Anthony Wayne really tough, but they've kind of ceded the lead to Anthony Wayne in the fourth quarter there. So I think that is a difference maker for Findlay. They got to play a full 4 quarters on offense and defense.
And if you are down there in Findlay, you got to be a little worried about catching the stray that is Perrysburg coming off a tough loss if you are down there in Findlay.
You know what? You should have a lot more confidence coming into this game if you're Findlay. Honestly, you look at it, you got a blueprint right in front of you.
Got a recipe, yeah.
You know, Whitmer laid the blueprint down. Obviously, like you said, Mike Ward and those guys are going to make some huge adjustments. But more importantly, you know, you now see some of the deficiencies where they're not as fast in the secondary. You know, obviously you're not going to go try Dominic Woods every play, and that'd be silly. Yeah. But now you got some other options to be able to hit this team up. And if you're Findlay, you know, it's time to get that run game going. You got some big guys out there. We talking about the Yeager brothers, you know, and how good they are, Balin, you know, and these guys. So this is a really good football team, and I feel like they're catching their stride. And for Perrysburg, you're looking at the schedule right now. This is the grunt of it. Yep. And losing that Whitmer game can cause a lot of stress on this team, depending on how healthy they really are coming into Findlay, because going on the road there, then you presume that they're going to potentially beat Springfield, and then you got to finish off the season with Anthony Wayne. So this is a very important time for them as they get prepared for the playoffs, and might bode well for them as they get ready. So it's a toss-up in my opinion.
Yeah, there's arguably, maybe not even arguably, no better team with a losing record in the area than Findlay. They've had a very tough schedule, obviously adjusting to life post-Montgomery. They found their stride. Perrysburg getting back to what has gotten them to a 6-1 record, avoid that loss again, keep things going towards what could be another now 3-way tie in the NLL Buckeye division. We'll find that out in Week 10, which obviously we'll talk about then. But now we got to get to our game of the week, brought to you by Dunn Chevy in Oregon. Cisco, you know what to do. Okay, we have talked Buckeye division. Now we're going down to the Cardinal side of things. Napoleon at Clay is our game of the week. Justin and the Bald Is Beautiful gang will be back at Clay for the second time this season. They got their first one. Now they get a second one. Huge Cardinal division matchup. This game went to triple OT last year. We're hoping for another banger just like that this Friday.
Napoleon won that triple overtime game 35-34, and that game was suspense-filled. Yeah, you might say triple overtime. Of course it was suspense-filled, but just the plays within those overtimes, it was just fantastic. I still remember it from a full year ago. But these are two teams with strong senior classes who have been together all the way up through grade school, junior high. Clay's teams, when they were younger, the senior class, they won as peewees, they won as junior high, they won as a freshman. And Clay just joined the NLL last year. Right. So these two groups of senior classes have not played each other aside from last year's triple overtime game. So I think that is a compelling element to this game. And on top of the fact that both of these teams are currently 9 seeds within their respective playoff regions, Clay in Division 2, Napoleon in Division 4. So you win this game, it goes a long way. I can guarantee you win this game based on the records of each of them, 5-2 Clay, 4-3 Napoleon. You're going to vault into the top 8, which will get you a first-round home playoff game and the potential opportunity to continue to win and then get into the top 4, which could get you 2 home playoff games. But Coach Tyler Swery for Napoleon told me that Clay is big and physical up front. He knows that they got to deal with Mason Heinchel. We've talked exhaustively about Mason Heinchel, and deservedly so, and what he's able to do running the ball and passing the ball. But Coach John Gallia said that he was pleased with what they did at Fremont Ross last week. They had a 21-point lead. The final score was 42-35, but they had a 21-point lead in the fourth quarter. But they had a solid running game, and it was not Mason Heinchel doing all the running. Been playing well. They had a number of their running backs toting the rock and getting some big-time yardage for them. So that was a positive development for Clay. And then Troy Hazuda and Hudson Byers, we've talked about them as well. But I think those guys are going to have to step up and have some big games against the Napoleon team that has Trey Rubenstein going anywhere, defense, offense, and special teams. So it's in my opinion, a worth the price of admission game because you see Trey Rubenstein, you see Mason Heinchel, Kent State and Pitt commits respectively, and they're going to be fun to watch just on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Trey, we've talked about it off podcast, Trey Rubenstein in this game might be the difference maker. He might be the guy that you say, hey, Mason Heinchel is your problem tonight. Handle your problem. Don't let him do Mason Heinchel things. Keep him in the pocket if that's where you need to keep him. He could be the X factor in keeping them in because we saw Perrysburg do a really good job of containing him, not letting him go crazy. Trey Rubenstein is a good enough athlete, hands down, to be able to do that as well.
Not so fast.
You
need 11 guys and 11 hats to the ball versus him. Now, him by himself, one-on-one in the boxing ring, I don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
But you got the footwork of Mason. He's crazy with it. But the one thing I do understand is that you got to team tackle this kid, and you also got to be disciplined in the back half of your defense if you're Napoleon. You can't get lazy with your eyes. You can't be watching the quarterback and not watching those spectacular receivers that they have, that big, tall tight end and Hudson Byers they have that can go and stretch the field. Ostrander, one of my favorite receivers all season in this area. So I
Mason
look at
would agree.
Yes, he has to. He finds that guy open all the time. And then again, you still got Troy Hazuda, one of the best hands catchers in the state of Ohio, in my opinion. So it's going to be an uphill battle, but you do have Eggers on the other side.
Yes.
You're going to run the football. Espinoza is really good. He can control the ball. So this is a game that I call the Super Bowl for this conference here.
Cardinal Division Super Bowl, yeah.
I believe this game's going to come down to simply, you're not going to stop Mason.
Yeah.
You got to contain him just a little bit for 4 quarters, but
he's going to get his.
And you got to own that possession era. So if Napoleon can't keep on to that ball and be able to get first downs, I think that's the difference maker. And Mason Heinz just got to continue to not turn over.
Yeah, for the Clay Eagles, they're looking for their first league title since 1982. Last time the Clay Eagles won, and that was the Great Lakes League way back in the day. So let us know who you think is going to win over on our X. Our Game of the Week poll closes Thursday at noon. Make your pick there. Now we're going back in time, not quite to 1982, but to one of our best athletes of the BCSN era, Vince Williams Jr., a terror on the court. 3-time Blade Player of the Year, 90-17 career record, 54-2 in conference play in his high school career, 19.6 points per game, 8.2 rebounds, 4.3 assists his senior year. That led him to Virginia Commonwealth, VCU, played in 110 career games at VCU, shot 40% from 3, 14 points per game as a senior. That's led him to his now growing career in the NBA, entering his 3rd year. Just signed a 3-year, $7.9 million contract extension in January. Had 52 games played, 10 points per game, 5.6 rebounds per game for the Grizzlies last season. A huge step up for him when they needed it due to injuries. And that is one of our top 20 male athletes of the BCSN era, Vince Williams Jr. We'll be right back after 30 seconds from Buffalo Wild Wings.
I've saved so much money enjoying Buffalo Wild Wings BOGO half-off traditional wing Tuesdays. I can finally afford everything I've ever wanted in life. Wings. All I ever wanted was more wings. So yeah, buy one, get one half-off traditional wings is the perfect deal for me and my lifetime yearnings. I value it more than literally anything. Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go sports bar.
At participating locations, not valid with other offers or discounts. See website or app for details.
I say it every week. You go to B-Dubs for more wings. You come here for more games. Games list this Friday. First off, we start Thursday. Start at Bowser, a big one on BCSN. You'll hear more from Bowser during Game Day Tailgate, which you see right at the top for Know Your Teammate. Napoleon at Clay, we talked about. Perrysburg, Finley, we talked about. DCC making the trip to St. John's. We talked about that for the student section of the week. Fremont Ross Southview, another great Cardinal Division matchup. Scott at Rogers, 6 p.m. That's your early kickoff on Friday. Rossford at Maumee in the NBC. And Edison, fresh off a huge win against Perkins last week. They're hosting Port Clinton. What's up there, Justin?
Yeah, I like all those matchups. A lot of state-ranked teams on there. Perrysburg still holding steady at number 6 in Division 1 with a 6-1 record. Anthony Wayne up to number 5, undefeated, 7-0 in Division 2. Central Catholic, number 3 in Division 3. Perkins dropped 1 spot. They're now behind Menor Lake Catholic. So Perkins, 6-1 record. They're ranked 2nd in Division 4. How about Division 5 in our area? 2, 3, and 4 slots. Liberty Center, Milan Edison, and Oak Harbor. All Northwest Ohio Central teams there.
Represent.
That's fantastic. Hopewell Loudon also ranked. Huron also ranked. And Eden also ranked. We talked about Eden at Ottawa Hills in Week 10 for the TAC title in all likelihood. But yeah, plenty of great. I think there's going to be a lot of good, close games this week.
Ready for some fun this Friday on Game Day Nation. We'll start it on Tailgate. We'll be hanging out. Mike Rob will be there. I'll pop in, say hi, and say what's up. We'll shout out to Jason Candle. Signed a 2-year contract extension to hang out a little longer with the Rockets. That's a wrap for today's episode. We'll be right here next week at 4 p.m. Listen to us anywhere you get your podcasts or bcsnnation.com/. podcast. Make sure you follow at Justin Feldkamp, at Coach_Mike Rob. They're flying everywhere. I'm not trying not to catch a stray out here. That's a wrap. I'm going to keep ducking down. We'll see you right here next week for a brand new episode.